Happy 4th of July week, Shit Creek survivors, and welcome back to where we share real stories of people getting stuck up Shit Creek, the paddles they used to get out, and hope for anyone stuck up their own Shit Creek right now. As we celebrate our nation's independence, it's important to remember that freedom has always come at a cost. You've probably heard the term Gold Star family, but do you know what that really means? A Gold Star family is the family of a service member who gave their life while serving our country. They're our neighbors, our co-workers, members of our churches and communities, and many quietly carry a sacrifice most of us will never fully understand. Today's guest, Anthony Price, is a Navy veteran who knows what it means to turn pain into purpose. After experiencing one of the darkest chapters in his own life, he dedicated himself to honoring Gold Star families through the Gold Star Ride Foundation, riding his motorcycle across America to ensure that their loved ones are never forgotten. This is a conversation about resilience, sacrifice, remembrance, and the people whose stories deserve to be heard. Let's get into it.
Most of the podcasts that I appear on, I'm just talking about the stuff that I'm working on today. A few of them like to say, "Well, what was your military service?" Well, my military service, there it is, right there. My military service was really worth talking about. I just did my time, and I was in a support capacity in the United States Navy, and I went in '87, and I got out when Desert Storm was right in the middle. Right in the middle of Desert Storm, and then I did 4 years inactive. Matter of fact, I called the recruiter and I said, "Look, Desert Storm is happening. Where do you want me?" I said, "I don't even need a haircut. I just got out. I don't even need a haircut." They said, "You know what? We're covered for your particular job, so, um, we'll call you if we need you."
So you're almost like on standby for 4 years thinking you might get a
Well, I
call.
was on standby for 4 years anyway. That's what I'd
Y
signed up for.
Yeah,
They
okay.
they call it back then, they called it a 2 by 4, 4 years active and 4 years inactive.
Okay,
So,
I get it.
that's what I signed up for. And, I just didn't give it a whole lot of thought. I was a weather observer, an aviation weather briefer, weather forecaster. That was
Very
my
cool.
job. And I worked at a naval air station. When the airplanes came in to refuel, I got to talk to the pilots and tell them what their weather was gonna be, and then they would take off, and that was it. In fact, I was so naive. I'll share this story with you. I was so naive. I think it was in about 1989, give or take 12 months, sometime around there. Um, a plane came in, pilot comes in for a weather brief, and I said, "You're grounded. You're not going anywhere for 4 hours. Thunderstorms, tornadoes, all that stuff. Your plane is locked down, and you're not going anywhere for 4 hours." And he said, "Well, what do I do with these guys I'm giving a ride to?" And I said, "Well, there's a room right next to the weather office. There was an empty room with a big table and chairs and
Yeah,
stuff that they used to plot out where they were gonna go. They
okay.
map room or whatever you wanna call it. Anyway, I said, "They can sit in there. It's no big deal. We've got a little deli right over there. They can have a sandwich or they can get a pop or whatever." They just sit right in. Anyhow, I end up going in that room and talking to these 8 guys that were sitting around this table. And that's when I found out that the United States had special forces called SEALs. I was
Mm,
in the Navy for 2 years, and I meet some SEALs, and it's the first I am introduced to the notion that the United States Navy has a SEAL team at all.
wow, that's cool.
Yeah, I was that's how naive I was about being in the Navy. Anyway, it turned out that was the 2nd SEAL team to invade Grenada,
Wow,
which happened in, I wanna say, in 1983. Under Ronald Reagan's first administration.
okay.
Actually, if I'm not mistaken, I'm an old guy now, so all my stories come with a little bit of a grain of salt, because I'm an old guy, and, if I'm not mistaken, Grenada was Ronald Reagan's way of getting the country to think about a successful military operation because Beirut had just been bombed and 253
Uh,
Marines were killed. So
yeah,
to get everybody to stop talking about Beirut, he went after the rescue of the students in Grenada, which, well, it turned out to be more than we thought it was because the first SEAL team that arrived, they all were killed.
jeez.
The entire SEAL team was killed. So, nobody talks about that. You know,
Right.
most people, they bring up Grenada, they say, "Oh, well, yeah, we were just in and out in a weekend." It's true that we were in and out, I think it was 3 days, 4 days, the whole thing, 3 or 4 days, and we rescued all of the students that had been taken hostage. But, people don't talk about the notion that it was a military operation, and it was significant enough that the 1st SEAL team, they thought they could get it done with 1 SEAL team, and
Right.
all of them guys were killed. 2nd SEAL team had a little different approach. You know, they had Marines that supported them, and you know, the Navy was not very far away, and you know, so they had air support and they had ground support and they had all kinds of different things. So they were able to get in there and get out in 3 days and rescue everybody. And I'm probably speaking out of school because the truth of the matter is I was not there. I wasn't even in the Navy yet. I was a grown up. I was an adult. I was 20 years old at the time that Grenada took place. Interesting side note again, I had my 25th birthday in boot camp.
Okay.
So so it was the first and only time in my life that I've been called grandpa. I s I have now, 1 step grandchild.
Hmm.
My stepson is married to a woman who brought a baby in with their wedding, and they're expecting another one. So I'm the stepdad, and I'm like a step grandpa.
Yeah.
Anyway, we do what we can with it, but the whole notion of the Shit Creek survivors, you know, what I had to go through, I was married to my 2nd wife, and we had 2 kids together. I met her in Italy, and
Cool.
for reasons I can't understand, decided that she should come live in America. Um, Not necessarily a good idea, folks. So, not necessarily. Anyway, I also I lovingly say that, she is now currently enjoying a wonderful relationship with Satan. Um, anyway, the truth of the matter is that I was a stay-at-home dad for 3 years. My job was stay home, take care of the kids. In fact,
Okay.
I homeschooled my son. We had a son and a daughter from that relationship. They're 2.5 years apart. And, the son was in 2nd grade. I homeschooled him in 2nd grade for the whole year. And by the time he was done, he was reading at a 7th grade level.
Whoa.
And then his mother insisted that we put him back in school for 3rd grade, and they had him reading at a 3rd grade level in about a year. So anyway, here's the dealio. I was a stay-at-home dad for 3 years. Their mother was a flight attendant. She would leave for 3 days at a time, once or twice a week. So, for the most part, I'm a single dad, and I'm taking care of the kids, and about 2 days a week, we let their mom come in, and she just hangs out with us for a while. Well,
Hmm.
in the last year or so that was happening, first of all, we got to the point where from January 2008 to, March 2010, she and I were never in the same room for that, entire period. She and I were never in the same room when I did not record our conversation because
Really?
she had become that abusive.
Wow. So you were
So
kind of put in that position where I got to record everything
I
here.
gotta record everything, and some of the things I got recorded will curl your hair. So I actually recorded it, just audio only, but I recorded it the day that I rushed into the kitchen to stop her from disciplining our 3-year-old daughter by putting her hands in boiling water.
Oh my gosh.
I got it recorded, you know,
Why do people
and
do
she's
that?
screaming at me. She's screaming at me saying, "Well, you never let me discipline our kids." Well, not if you're gonna do it like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, the so part of
So it
my
got to the
therapy.
did what sorry, I don't mean it. I just
Well,
know
ask questions.
a lot of men have dealt with this where, there's one thing that happens and then when the police arrive, it's a totally different story coming out of the person's mouth. So a lot of people
Oh,
get put in
yeah,
a position where
totally.
they have to record these incidents so that when they get into a position where they have to be able to back up their own story, they actually have to have physical recording, which is unfortunate. I'm sorry you were put in that situation. I know a lot of people have. So,
For the 3rd time, the police came to our house. So one day, I take the boy to school, leave the girl with her mother, and then because girl went to school an hour later. So I take him to
Okay.
school, I come home, then we're gonna take mom to work, and I'm gonna take the girl to school. This is the way things had been planned for the day. So I take the boy to school, I come home, she's in the shower, I realized that she stole my journals, or one of my journals. She stole one
Okay.
of my journals, which I had kept in my laptop bag. I know exactly where that stuff is. I was writing 5 and 6 pages a day in my
Hmm.
journals, logging everything that is happening in our home, and because they're my journals, I also wrote my personal thoughts in there. Well, she had been taught by somebody that she couldn't leave the house without stealing that journal, because that journal would basically put me in jail, which it did. Anyway, when the cops came, I called the cops while she was still in the shower, and they said, "Why are we here?" And I said, "There's gonna be a fight." And they said, "What do you mean there's gonna be a fight? She's in the shower. What could possibly go wrong?" I said, "She stole my journal, and you guys aren't leaving until I get it back." And I'm nice, I'm good, I'm doing all my part of this thing, but there's gonna be a fight. Anyway, the cops came, she and she comes out of the shower in her bathrobe, to see 2 police officers, and she was a little taken aback by that, but anyway, the
Yeah.
short version of that story is they couldn't find it, so they left. They didn't go far away, they only went a half a block and waited for the call to come back in, because the call did come back in, because we only had 1 car at that time. We're poor, we're desperately poor. We're living off my military disability, and that was basically it. And her pittance that she got for being a flight attendant. Um, but when they came back again, as a as opposed to what the law that they were instructed suggested, which was arrest the husband,
Hmm.
they instead put her in a taxi and sent her away. And then now this was the 3rd time we had police come to stop our interactions. He
Right.
said very, very politically correctly. It's the 3rd time police came to break up our fight, and it's the 3rd time that the police sent her away. So
Okay.
contrary to the way things were, I was never arrested during one of those disputes. She was always sent away,
Yeah.
always.
Yeah.
So, and there's plenty of documentation for that, and if you're really crazy and you wanna find out all the details of that, I started a podcast myself. I record an episode about once every 2 months, um, in which I just read the journals. I just read my journals. And
All right. I
I
bet.
play the recordings of those things that became important. I mean, if our conversation was benign, I just deleted it. But if our conversation had any meat to it, I kept it. So when she and I are in a conversation and she says stuff like, "Well, I slept with 3 pilots last night, so I don't even know what I'm doing here." That was recorded and I kept that one. The one about
Yeah.
my daughter, I kept it. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm going in the wrong direction.
No, that's all right.
So, the short story here is that yeah, too late. It's not a short story anymore. Uh, the dealio is, and I don't tell this part to anybody else. This is for the Shit Creek survivors thing, because you got to know how you got to where you are, right? So that's kind of the premise of what we're talking about and what we're going to talk about today. The next day, I thought she was on a flight to Washington because she's a flight attendant, and took my son to school, and then I took my daughter to school, and my daughter went to school 3 blocks from the house. So I drop her off at school, drop her off with her teacher, get back my car, drive back the 3 blocks to my house, and I'm walking in the door, and I have 1 foot in the door and 1 foot out of the door, and my cell phone rings, and it's the principal of my daughter's school, and she says, "I just thought you'd like to know that your wife just picked up your daughter."
Hmm.
And I fell to the floor, and oh, shit, and I found a little way to get a little composure because I knew the shit just hit the fan. So I called up the boys' school and I say, "I gotta know, is he still there? Is he still there? You gotta keep him there." "No, no, your wife picked him up a half hour ago."
Oh no.
So they're gone. So, now we're at the point he's in 3rd grade, she's in kindergarten, I think, roughly. And they have never in their entire lives gone to bed without me saying goodnight, "I love you," and kissing them goodnight.
Hmm.
But they started doing it that night because she went into hiding. And she found out through some very talented people that know their way around the courthouse how to lie and who to lie to at
Mm,
the courthouse.
yeah.
So in the month before this happened, I asked for four times. I went to the court and asked for an order for protection against her.
Mhm.
4 times it was denied.
Mm.
And after it was like 2 days after the 4th one was denied, they gave her one against me. And I proved in court when I was fighting this OFP, I demonstrated to the court that she committed perjury 12 times,
Mhm.
and the judge still ruled in her favor. Anyway,
Yeah.
so now this is what we're dealing with. Um, she has the kids, totally. I cannot see them. I cannot call them. I cannot text them. I cannot send them an email. No contact. If I have any contact with my kids, I go to jail. I'm arrested and I go to jail. That's it. The judge says that this is going to remain in effect until sometime in the future after I provide a bona fide letter from a court authorized psychologist, has to be recognized by the court, that
Oh,
says I will never hurt my children. So I have to go find a stranger and get a stranger to say that for 15 years, I am never going to accidentally hurt my children or
wow.
psychologically hurt my children. So getting somebody to do that is, that's kind of like trying to make a carrying pad of smoke. You're just not going to do it. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I got it to happen. But
Good.
before I got it to happen, before I could get it to happen, years had gone by with me paying a supervisor authorized by the court $100 an hour to spend time watching me hang out with my kids. So I went from being a full-time 24-hour-a-day dad to once a week for 2 hours. I get to hang
It
out with my kids with a stranger in the room
that you're paying.
that I'm paying. I had to be the one to pay for that. So
Wow.
this is the drastic change that I went through. And
Yeah.
one day, about 3 years into this, I mean, I knew how abusive my ex-wife could be. And by this time, she was my ex-wife within 3 months.
Yeah.
Divorce? Yeah, no problem. Let's fight for the kids. And the fight for the kids took 2 years. But anyway, and I lost it. Uh, and there's a lot more we could go on and on and on with that. But here's the important part of that. About 3 years after my kids were taken away, I looked in the mirror and what you see before you, I stand exactly 6 feet tall. And today I weigh 220 pounds. Back then, I looked in the mirror on this one particular day. I probably weighed 160 pounds. I had
Wow.
significant crow's feet. My eyes were sunk into the back of my head. Now, you got to realize this is a time when I didn't sleep at all for more than 3 hours
Wow.
because I'm concerned that my children are in the home of an abusive human being who at any time can backhand my son from the top of the steps and he rolls tumbling down the steps and breaks his neck.
And
And
then
if
you've also
that happens and I go to the funeral, I get arrested. So this is how bad that situation was, and I look in the
and
mirror
your
and
child's in the hands of someone who's demonstrated they're willing and capable to lie.
well,
You know what
yeah.
I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So not only is like the child in danger, but the person who may hurt the child will lie about it. They've
Absolutely. Correct, correct.
demonstrated that they're capable of doing that. So that's another layer. Wow, I'm so sorry
So
you're going through that.
here's the big part of the story that I was trying to get to. I had to tell a little bit of the backstory to get to this big part. So I'm underweight, I'm undernourished, I'm not getting any rest. These are the things I'm going through. I'm probably how old was I then? 48 years old? And when I look back at that now, I go, "Gee, I could have been a professional football player." But anyway, I looked in the mirror and I saw all of this, and my hair was all white. And for a 48-year-old with all white hair, I'm supposed to be blonde. And I wear it long. That I do that. I do that just to remind my dad that I'm in charge of me. He's not. My dad passed away. My dad passed away about 2.5 years ago. But when I was a kid, every other week, every other Saturday, he would force me to sit in a chair while he shaved my head.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, it wasn't just me, I had 5 brothers. 4 of us
Okay.
got 4 of 5 of us got sat in the chair and our heads shaved. The older one was he was like 17, 18 years old, so he got to go to the barber and get his own haircuts. But anyway, so that's why I wear my hair long, and incidentally, I'm the only one of my brothers that still wears their hair long. I had 2 other brothers that had long hair for a while, but they decided they wanted to go short. Anyway, I don't care about none of that. So I'm looking at this image in the mirror, and it's frightening. It's really, really scary. And I made the decision looking in the mirror that day that I had to acknowledge that my kids were already dead. I had to go
Wow.
through in my mind, it took about a week to get from point A to point B here, from making the decision to having a grasp of that. So it took a few days to kind of put this together, but I kind of had to imagine that I was standing at their grave sites while they were being put in the ground. I had to, go through mentally whatever anguish and sadness you have to deal with because your kids are been taken away from you prematurely. And speaking of that, I don't know if you know this or not, but if your parents die, we have a word for who you are. You're an orphan. If your spouse dies, we have a word for who you are. You're a widower or a widow. But if your children die, we do not have a word in the English language for who you are. There is no word to describe a parent who loses a child in the English language. And I don't know
Never
of any
thought
other
of that.
language. I'm a unilingual. So, but I don't know if there's any other language that even has a word for what you call the person who lost a child. Here in
Right.
America, we're for what we do. I often refer to them as gold stars, but that's only if you lose your child in the military, and that's only under certain circumstances, and we'll get into that in a minute. But here's the thing about once every 2 months, I had to go into the court and have an interview with some court officer about spending time with my children, and I had to go through I I had to go through what do they call anger management? I think they call it anger management. I went through that with such flying colors that I wasn't even to the end of the thing. It's like a 13-week thing. I wasn't even
Hmm.
to the end of it, and they pulled me aside and asked me if I'd be an instructor.
So obviously you didn't belong there.
Yeah, believe it or not, I only have control over one person, and it's me. And that's true for all of us, all human beings. We only have control over one person. I learned this from Wayne Dyer. You want to quit smoking? Yes, I want to quit smoking. You want to stop right now from smoking? Yes, I want to stop putting cigarettes in your mouth. Wow, that's all it takes? Yeah, that's really all it takes because it's a choice. You make
Yeah.
a choice to pick up a cigarette, put it in your mouth. All you have to do is choose not to.
Yeah.
Yeah, the same thing happened. He talks about a patient who comes in wearing mittens in Southern California. What are you doing wearing mittens in Southern California? Well, it stops me from chewing my fingernails. Well, you want to stop chewing your fingernails? Stop putting your fingers in your mouth.
Yeah.
It's really that simple. I mean, it is really that simple, but that's not very simple.
Hmm.
Okay. Anybody who has tried to quit smoking who is addicted to cigarettes will tell you it's not that simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then again, it is that simple.
Yes. Yeah. I
It
see what you
it it
mean.
it really is that simple. So these are the kind of things that I put in my book and, okay, let's not teach them how to go to the gym instead of punching their wife because it's almost well, in my group, it was 100% men. They didn't let women in there. Women had their own class across the hall. I made the decision, and I went through the motions that my children were already dead, and then the next time I went in to see a court-ordered somebody who's supposed to dictate whether or not I can see my children,
Right.
right? So
Yeah.
I had a year and a half earlier produced a letter from the psychologist.
Hmm.
So that was one thing. Anyway, so I'm in there with this person and I just sat down across from her desk immediately, no greetings or anything. We just sit down across from each other. And incidentally, I recorded all these things too, even though they specifically said you can't record in here. I
Okay.
recorded everything. Anyhow, she looks at me, she says, "Well, why should I let you see your kids?" And I said, "You can't fucking hurt me anymore." I'm done with that. You can't hurt me anymore." And she said, "Oh, okay. Well, we'll let you see him after school on Wednesday starting next week, and then you get him every other weekend in 3 weeks. No more supervisor." So, literally, as soon as
Whoa.
I said that, and I would have cleaned it up a little bit with the language, but I didn't clean it up for her, so why should I clean it up for you? I actually used that exact language, and then she let me start seeing my kids again.
How backwards. How
Yeah, so there's
weird.
all so yeah, that what struck her was you there was nothing they could do anymore to cause me any more pain. Because I took
So
on
they
the
almost like,
mantra.
yeah, they almost like beat you into submission. And when they
Yeah,
saw that you
basically.
were beaten down, they're like, okay,
Yeah.
well, I guess you're safe enough for your kids. That makes no sense. That seems
No, it
so,
doesn't make any sense at all. As a matter of fact, it should have worked just the opposite. As soon as I
uh-huh.
say
I
something
would,
like that, that's when you're supposed to take my kids away.
yeah, like what's going on here? There's a sudden change. She's saying you can't hurt
Well,
me. Like, yeah, wow. That's things are,
okay,
it,
so about the same time that this happens, this is quite a while ago now. I wanna say that happened in 2013. Also in 2013, somebody asked me if I wanted to go for a motorcycle ride, and I said, "Yes." And my wife, my current wife, jumped on the back with me, and we're still together, by the way. Um, yeah, we have our own challenges, because we get to add chemotherapy to our routine starting in 3 days. But
who's going through that? You or her?
she is.
I'm
They
so
discovered
sorry.
breast cancer a month ago, so we're gonna start chemo on Friday on this week. Anyway, yeah, just one more thing, because if
Yeah.
you don't have a lot of challenges in your life, life gets pretty boring. And I go to bed every night saying, "Please let me have a boring day tomorrow, please." Anyway, we went for this motorcycle ride with this group of people, and the first place we went was to a woman's house who had 2 little kids, and the spokesperson for we stopped at her house, all these motorcycles. We stopped at her house, and the spokesperson for the group stood on the front steps of her house, standing next to her with her 2 children, hugging her legs. No, she had one in her arm, and the other one was hugging her leg. And, the spokesperson told everybody how she married her high school sweetheart. And upon graduating from high school, her high school sweetheart and his best friend joined the Army on the buddy system.
Okay.
This was some time ago.
Hmm.
All of this was, he's telling a story that was, 5 years old or whatever. So it was most of the stuff was all a long time ago. Anyhow, they're walking together doing a patrol over in the Middle East someplace when the buddy steps on an IED and he turns into that fine pink mist that we hear so much about. So
Yeah.
now her husband is wearing his best friend.
Hmm.
Um, Short story here, they put him in the hospital in California. Why they chose California, nobody really knows because they lived in Minnesota. But in those days, they had a 60-day policy for post-traumatic stress disorder. Incidentally, I like to call it post-traumatic stress
Hmm.
because I believe that anybody who goes into a combat zone and comes back without something a little bit screwed up in their head, that person was pretty screwed up before they got there. Uh, because it is a natural course for the human brain to take to have what we now call post-traumatic stress. In the olden
Yeah.
days, we also called it shell shock. I
Yeah.
think that's what they called it in World War One, and they had some other long name, battlefield fatigue, I think they called it for Vietnam.
Hmm.
Now we call it post-traumatic stress disorder, but it's not a disorder. In
Hmm.
my mind, it's not a disorder, so if I say PTS or if I say post-traumatic stress, know what I'm talking about. Anyway, in those days, they had a 60-day policy for post-traumatic stress. And after 60 days, they said, "Don't let the door hit you in the butt on the way out of the VA hospital."
Hmm.
And he didn't, and he lasted on the streets of Southern California for about 5 days before he took his own life. Also
Wow.
um, in those days, they considered that, damaging government property. That was
If you took your own life, they
if you took
considered
your
it.
own life. If you took leave back in the days when I served, if I took leave and I went skiing and I broke my leg on the ski slope, they called that damaging government property.
Uh,
There was different set of rules back then. Now my understanding is that the VA has come to recognize post-traumatic stress as a incredibly real condition,
Yeah.
and they have also come to recognize that, suicide is a symptom of post-traumatic stress,
Yeah.
not damaging government property. Anyway, I watched all these bikers, and they're all in tears, they're smoking cigarettes, they're covered with tattoos, earrings, leather. You can smell the oil, you can smell the burnt rubber, you can smell the exhaust, you can smell everything. This is the group that we're with, and I watched them all open up their wallets and put this woman back to college for 2 years so
Mhm.
she could be a viable part of her community rather than a burden on it. And, it was at that moment, it was at that time when I was standing with that group of bikers and in this that's by the way, that's when I learned what a gold star was, what it meant to
Really?
be a gold star. I had never heard of it before that day. And by this point in history, I am a civilian for 22 years. That's 22 years after I got out of the Navy before I learned what it meant to be a gold star. And that's weird because the term gold star came about in World War One.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's well over 100 years. Well, by the time I heard about it, it was 95 years old. It's well over 100 years old now. But anyway, when I learned about what a gold star was, I realized it just something inside of me said, I have to do something to help gold stars for the rest of my life. I didn't know what it looked like. Of course, I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know where I was going to go. I didn't know who I was going to meet. I didn't know you and I would ever meet each other. And had I not made that decision, you and I certainly would not be talking about my kids.
Yeah, that's true.
Um, but so that's what I decided to do. And I rode with that group for 3 years, and they only ride one weekend a month.
Mhm.
Um, so they could do that, and I rode with them for 3 years, and then I met with they had a small board of directors, I think 5 people or something was their board of directors, and I happened to see them at a Gold Stars house, and I walked up to them, and they're all standing there having a little mini meeting, so to speak, and I walked up to them and I said, "Hey, what we're doing here is really awesome. This is phenomenal work, but we have to figure out a way to go national." And they all
Mhm.
burst into laughter, and they said, "You'll never, ever do a national ride." And I said, "I can do one. I'm a disabled vet. Nobody will give me a job anyway. I can ride my motorcycle. I'll go on a national ride for you." Well, it took about 6 months for them to come back and say, "Our lawyer said, no, you cannot carry our flag on a national ride." I
Okay.
said, "Okay. Okay, fine." And then I got together with a couple of friends and I said, "What we need to do is form a board of directors so we can have our own charity organization." So I did that,
Awesome.
and we decided that the name of our charity organization was going to be Gold Star Ride Foundation. So we built the website. We started doing all this stuff. I was named as the executive director of the charity organization. I have to run everything by our board of directors before we make any decisions on anything. Um, but the first ride I did was in 2018. In 2018, I did one motorcycle ride that was 17,000 miles and change,
Whoa.
44 states in the United States of America, and I met with 64 Gold Star families around the country.
Wow.
Some of them, a couple of them, I had other motorcycles would join with me along the way. Most of them I met by myself. And in these days, remember right before I started the charity, I was living off my disability, and I'm not
Mhm.
100% disabled, so I'm not living on very much money. As a rule, my rent would take about 90% of my income. So I started the charity, and we did a couple of fundraisers before we went. So that motorcycle ride ended up taking me 56 days. So I was on the road for 2 solid months, 8 8 solid weeks, 56 days. And when I came home from that motorcycle ride, meeting all of those Gold Star families, I made sure that my wife still loved me, and after 30 days, she let me back in the house. When I sat down to write the book, and this book is, I don't know, it's 380 pages or something like that, and I can prove that I wrote it because look, not only is my name on the front, but if you look at the pictures, I'm in almost all of them.
There you go.
Anyway, so the book is called Yours Very Sincerely and Respectfully. You can buy it at the website. Website's goldstarride.org. So I didn't stop there. I could have. You know, nobody would have given me a second guess or a second glance if if I would have stopped there. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you a cute little story. There was a moment I was on the road when my motorcycle was broke down and I didn't have any money. Remember, I started out pretty poor. We did a little fundraiser before I left, but it turned out that that money was all gone after 2 days.
Wow.
So I'm on the road for like, it was, matter of fact, it was 4th of July weekend. And no, it was right after the 4th of July weekend. 4th of July that year came on like a Wednesday. So this is like the Friday after. And I was in upstate New York, Buffalo, New York area. It's probably like, I don't know, 30 miles from Buffalo. And I wasn't smart enough to go see Niagara Falls, which I had never seen before. Um, but I was actually in a hotel room. Motorcycle was broke down. It was dead in the water. I didn't have near enough money to fix it. I didn't have
Right.
enough money to pay for the hotel room the next night. And this was Friday. Motorcycle is not getting fixed until Monday at the earliest. And I'm out of money. I'm completely out of money Saturday morning.
Wow.
Completely. No credit cards, no debit cards, no cash. No, I'm completely I
Done.
mean, I'm
Yeah.
bottomless. I mean, it's gone. Everything is gone Saturday morning. And I'm sitting in a hotel room and I was literally crying. I was like, What the hell?" Well, I can let him keep the motorcycle for the repairs and I can hitchhike home. I guess I could do that. And then, well, we gave it the old college try and nobody would know, right?
Right.
You wouldn't know. Nobody would know that I didn't succeed in what I said I was going to do,
Right.
except me.
Hmm.
But I literally could not see anything I could do. I started going, "Okay, look, I got 3 of these GoPro cameras. I can take 2 of them to a pawn shop and get $400.
Hmm.
The brand new GoPro cameras are like $700 each. I said, I can do that. So I'll do that. I'll take these cameras to the pawn shop and I'll get $400. And the repairs on the motorcycle are gonna be about 1,200. So I'll see if I can go wash dishes at a local restaurant or something for a day or
Right.
do something. I get because I'm gonna know what happens. And about 9 o'clock on Friday night, there's a knock on my hotel room door. Motel. I'm in a motel. Knock on a motel room door, and I open the door and I see this rather attractive woman there, and she said, "Are you Tony?" I said, "Yes, I'm Tony." And she just reached down and grabbed my hand, put a wad of cash in it, and said, "I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm spiritually guided to do this for you. I don't want anything back. You don't get to know who I am, nothing. Here you go. This is for you, and your hotel's paid for till Monday morning." And she turned and she left, just like that, just like that.
Wow.
And I would think it was like $600 in cash.
Uh-huh.
Come Monday morning, I called the dealership. Um, I called the dealership that it wasn't a dealership. It was a motorcycle repair shop. I called the repair shop that's working on my motorcycle, and they said, "Yeah, your motorcycle's done. Come on down here." So I said, okay, I'm walking down there. I had to walk just like, 6 blocks, carrying all my backpack and all my riding gear and everything,
Yeah.
carrying it all down the road on a hot July day. Anyway, I get down there and the owner of the repair shop says, "Come on in my office for a minute." And he starts pointing at pictures of veterans who used to work for him. And he said, "Yeah, this guy got killed, and these guys are all my friends. And we're gonna donate this to you, so you're good to go. Your repairs are done, you're covered,
Wow.
you're good to go."
Wow.
People ask me all the time people ask me all the time, "Hey, do you believe in miracles?" No, I do not believe in miracles. I depend on them.
I
I
love
depend
that.
on
That's
them. So
great.
funny story, so it's a week later, exactly a week later, I'm telling you about my first ride, all this stuff is in the book, but it's a week later, and I'm in outside of Savannah, Georgia. So I have to ride motorcycle across South Carolina about, I don't know, 300 miles, something like that. Every inch of South Carolina is in the rain, pouring rain. And I'm not prepared for rain then like I am now. Like
Yeah.
now it doesn't even phase me. I don't even notice if it's raining or not anymore. But back then it was a little different. I had the four ways on. I'm only going 45 miles an hour. I mean, it's pouring rain. And I get to the Georgia state line and it clears up. Beautiful. Okay, so I'm in the rain for 8 hours. So I decided I'm gonna ride through Savannah, Georgia, which I've been to Savannah before, My
Mhm.
wife and I took a weekend and spent it in downtown Savannah. It's a wonderful place if you've never been there. So I said, "I'm gonna ride through downtown Savannah." It's about 50 miles from where I stop for gas, and I look at my stuff, and the clouds are breaking. I look at all my gauges, and they're all fogged over. I can't see anything. Everything got so wet that it's now foggy, and I gotta, squinting, might be able to see something. So I take off down the road, and I'm, like, right on the edge of Savannah, 50 miles later, enjoying the sunshine, trying to dry off in the wind, and the gauges are slowly clearing up, and the alternator gauge, the voltmeter gauge, is buried to the left, which
Mm.
means that my charging system is putting out less than 7 volts. And
Okay.
if you know anything about this stuff, the charging system must put out between 13 and 14 volts in order to run a charge on the battery.
Okay.
In order to keep otherwise you're running all the juice off the battery and you're gonna stop and it won't start because your battery's gonna be dead. Anyhow, short story here, um, I called about 3 mom and pop repair shops, and they said, "You gotta take that to the dealership." And at that point in time, I'm such a poor person. I'm riding an old motorcycle, and I did all my own repairs back home. I'm
Mhm.
such a poor guy, I'm thinking, you don't go to the dealership because they charge an arm and a leg. They
Yeah.
just a lot of people say HD doesn't mean Harley Davidson, it means $100 because you can't go into one without spending at least $100. The T-shirt in Harley Davidson costs $45 now. A T-shirt.
That's crazy.
Anyway, so I go to the dealership, and I'm just, like, hat in hand, my mood is in my shoes, man. I'm just dragging, going, "Yeah, I had a good run. I got 2 weeks out of this thing. Um, I'm gonna have to leave the motorcycle here and look for an airport or hitchhike back home because this ain't," and now I'm back down to nothing in the bank account again. I'm down to 150 bucks. That's all I
Yeah.
got.
Okay.
150 bucks. Um, and I pull into it's Friday. It's Friday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And the service manager pulls the motorcycle in. He says, "All right, we'll check this thing out." And I said, "I'd like to meet the manager. Can I meet the manager?" He says, "Yeah." Yeah." So I meet the manager, and she's this wonderful woman, and she's giving me a tour of the whole dealership. It's a
Mhm.
wonderful little place. And upstairs above the service, they have a meeting room where the hog chapter meets.
Okay.
Hog chapter is going to meet at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Wouldn't you like to come and speak to them? Tell them what you're doing. I said, "Sure, that'd be great. I'll come in and speak to the hog chapter." And then she says, "Well, let's go check on your motorcycle." It's like an hour later. We go check on the motorcycle. The service manager comes out, and his thing is 2 pages long. It's got all the things wrong with my motorcycle. It's got 2 pages. He says, "Well, you definitely need a stator, you need a set of magnets, you need a rotor, you need a voltage regulator. The front tire is on backwards, so we got to take that off and spin it around. Your back brakes are shot, your back tire is shot, um, and I s- everything he says, I'm just shrinking a little
Yeah.
bit more, just
Like,
shrinking.
oh.
And then I'm like, oh my god, I'm almost a puddle on the floor, and I just said, "What's the total?" And I can't even look at him. I'm just looking down. What's the total? And the general manager of the dealership still standing right next to me. What's the total? And he said something like $1,867.47.
Right away, you're
It
like,
was
"That's not doable."
over $1,800. He might as well have said 1,000,000.
Yeah.
I only
Yeah.
had 150 bucks in my pocket,
Mhm.
and she says, the GM puts her hand on my shoulder and says, "Fix it. We're covering everything."
Wow.
Well, he's gonna have to spend the night because we can't get that tire till tomorrow morning. Okay, motel right next to Harley Davidson dealership. Now that took my 150 bucks. Now I'm flat broke. I can't even have breakfast. Come in the morning. Next morning, they have a buffet at the dealership. So there's breakfast. And then I go speak to the hog chapter and I tell them about this, that, and the other thing. I tell them about how we got started, what we're doing. And I tell them, I talked for, I don't know, 10 minutes, 11 minutes, 12 minutes, something like that. And he gave me a standing ovation and they said, "Please take," no, I didn't have any books at the time. I didn't have anything. I had t-shirts. I had a couple of t-shirts. T-shirts are really cool. They say, "My DD214 can kick your MBA's ass."
I like that. That's
So if
good.
you want one of them, you can buy them off our website. We just got a T-shirt manufacturer donated a bunch of them to us, so we got them on our website. But anyway, I sat down in a corner to meet, and I said, if you got questions after your meeting, I'll be sitting over there. I come sit over there, and before the last person left, I had raised over $1,000 from the Hog chapter.
Wow.
So then I go downstairs and I get on the motorcycle. Actually, no, I get downstairs and the general manager is down there again, and she says, your motorcycle isn't going to be done till about 3:30 in the afternoon. Please take this motorcycle and go joyriding. She put me on a brand new
Wow.
motorcycle. Off we go so I went down to downtown Savannah, which is where I wanted to go anyway.
Yeah.
So I rode around for about 3, 4 hours, and I came back. She gave me a brand new motorcycle to ride. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then down the road I go on Saturday night, and down the road I go and go meet more gold stars. And every time something like that happened, another miracle came from nowhere that I didn't expect, that I didn't ask for, and it appeared and showed itself. And it told me every time that it happened, it tells me that I must be doing the right thing, taking care of these gold star families.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm doing now. Now, let me tell you a couple more quick bullet points so you have an idea. Gold Star families, of course, are immediate family members of somebody who's killed in the military. Our little organization doesn't have anything to do with the federal government, so we don't have to play by the exact same rules that the VA does. So the VA says to be a Gold Star, you must be KIA. You must be killed by enemy fire. Matter of fact, friendly fire during a war doesn't even count.
Really?
Yes, and I promise you that, um was it Tipton? What was the guy's name from Arizona that walked off the football field? Um,
Oh, Tillman? Tillman.
Pat Tillman.
Yeah.
I spoke at the Pat Tillman American Legion twice. They've
Cool.
flown me in there to tell everybody about what the Gold Star Ride Foundation does. So I met with Pat Tillman's mother. You don't think
Wow.
you think she's a little upset? You know, Pat Tillman was killed by friendly fire.
I didn't know that they actually determined.
Well, yeah, they knew it the moment he hit the ground. They knew it. They tried to hide it, but they've decided to put their hat in their hands, and they've admitted that he was killed by friendly fire. And of all people to die at all, and then to have him die of friendly fire, what a black eye that is for the American military. But she's still. I'm pretty sure it's been a few years since I talked with her, but she was really upset when I talked to her, and I don't blame her. I don't blame her one little bit. But you know, when I was on that first ride, I had to stop in San Antonio, Texas. They donated a new tire to me. In Butte, Montana, I think it was Butte. Butte, is that where the Madonna of the Rockies is, the Mary of the Rockies, whatever they call it. There's an 80-foot tall statue of the Virgin Mary on
I
top of
didn't
a
know that.
mountain. I think that's in Butte, Montana. That's where I was stopped, and I needed a new voltage regulator there, and they fixed me up with that for free. Stuff happens all over the country. I'm in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Harley Davidson in Blaine has donated something, whether it's a new tire, new set of brakes, new something, at least once a year for the last 7 years. They just throw it. Yeah, we'll give you that. We'll
Wow.
donate that to your charity. Um, so now I have now finished 72 of these rides,
Well done.
and my eighth. I will have completed 8 years at the end of next week.
Awesome.
So 8 years at the end of next week, 72 rides. I have personally met with 562 Gold Star families coast to coast.
Wow.
I have been to so many places. Oh, look here. I have a map right here. I can show you. This is not a complete map. This is a map of how many places I've been to after about 69 rides or 68 rides.
Whoa. Very cool.
That's where I've been. And like I said, there's a few new ones. There's a couple over here on the East Coast. There's a couple of new ones because last April, a couple months ago in April, I got to cross the Chesapeake Bay.
Oh, cool.
Are
Yeah,
you
I went to
familiar with the Chesapeake Bay?
yes, I went to college in Virginia and played lacrosse, so we would cross the bridge a lot to go up
So that
the East
what is it,
Coast.
about a 10-mile bridge, 15-mile
Yeah,
bridge?
it's a long
That's
way.
got 2 one-mile long tunnels in the middle of it.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, I had never heard of such a thing, but that's where I had to go 'cause I met a Gold Star mother, just like 30 miles on the north side of that. So I was coming from
Mm,
Florida I was northbound.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, 562 families, over 163,000 miles, and, at the end of this week, I'm not sure when this is gonna air, but on June 27th, I'm gonna log about 300 more miles because we have, organized stuff. We're getting good at this. We're starting to put some things together
Got
as
it.
a charity organization. So, for example, I don't have to beg for hotel rooms anymore. I don't have to beg for tanks of gas anymore because we have, a handful of people who are helping us out with that stuff. But
That's awesome.
by the second half of that first ride, after I left Savannah, Georgia, um, from there on, from Savannah all the way up through Iowa, back down through Texas, around through California and Nevada and Seattle, Washington, and then coming back through Colorado and Wyoming, South Dakota. In all of those places, I had to beg for hotel rooms because I didn't have the money to pay for them. If I didn't find a hotel that was willing to donate a room to the charity, I was
Mhm.
sleeping in a ditch, and I slept in a bed every night.
Wow.
They were never the nice beds,
Right, yeah,
but they
but
were
it's a
beds
bet.
that had rooms with running water and Wi-Fi. Anyway, and I always felt that I should stay in the crappiest hotel I can find because
Mhm.
we got people in the Middle East sleeping in the dirt where they dug a
I
hole.
see where you're coming from. Yep.
Yeah, so, I didn't figure that I deserve anything more than what they were willing to do for us. Um, and, yeah, so now I've done 72 of those rides, and Saturday, the 27th of June, we're gonna do our 7th annual 250 mile self-directed laugh ride. It's a
Laugh
mouthful.
ride.
We call it a laugh ride. Laughs is short for long ass fundraiser. We we call it that because the first one that we did 7 years ago was 1,000 miles inside of 24 hours. We actually ended up riding 1,014 miles in 21 hours,
Wow.
and I got a patch to prove it
There's
somewhere.
a
Got a lot of
that's
patches on my vest. So that's called the iron butt. They call that the saddle sore if you can ride 1,000 miles in 24 hours. And if you can ride 1,500 miles in 36 hours, they got a name for that too. And I've got that patch too because I did that too.
nice.
Well, a couple years
Nice.
ago, I decided I wanted to do a publicity stunt. I wanted to get on the news in San Diego, California. I wanted the news crews to come out and make a news story about me. Incidentally, I've been on the news in 28 different markets in the last 7.5 years. Um,
Nice.
um, yeah, so I wanted to get on the news in San Diego. And to do that, I thought, well, what I'm going to have to do is a stunt. And the stunt I'm going to do is I'm going to ride from the Atlantic Ocean in Jacksonville Beach, Florida, to the Pacific Ocean in San Diego. And I'm going to do it in 50 hours, two
Dang,
days,
how many
2 days,
miles is that? 2 days.
2,700 miles in 2 days.
Wow.
Yeah, and incidentally, a little geography lesson for you for all the listeners out there that love to learn about the geography of the United States. 2,700 miles from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean along the southern edge of the United States of America. A full 1/3 of that is Texas. Tex Texas is over 900 miles from east to west.
Yeah, it's a big state.
Yeah.
Big state. Yeah, I've driven
So,
through parts of it.
yeah, I was on track to make it, but I got hit by a haboob. What's a
What's that?
haboob? There's
Yeah.
another piece of geography you don't know unless you live there. A haboob is in West Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. That's what they call the sandstorms that block out the sun. The
Oh,
wind will blow. Yeah, that doesn't happen only in the Middle East. That happens here in the United States also.
and
So
you
yeah, I
ran
got
into
hit
one of
by a
those?
haboob. Huh?
Whoa, you ran into a boob or whatever you
Yeah,
call it, the
I hit a
sandstorm?
haboob.
Haboob. Yeah.
Haboob. I ran into a haboob, and I could only see one stripe on the highway in front of me as I'm tooling down the road. And I'm not wearing a mask. I'm not wearing a helmet at that point because it just stopped raining, so I took my helmet off. Um, so I went from rain to haboob, and so I did my best. I slowed down to like 45, 50 miles an hour. And I'm going,
Yeah.
okay, I've been riding in the rain for 8 hours leading up to that point, which meant
Yeah.
everything was wet,
Yeah.
including the air cleaner. The air cleaner is now a sponge, right?
Mhm.
And now I'm in the sand, which means my air cleaner is turning into a mud pit.
Yeah. Uh,
I rode about 50 miles down the road to a place called, it'll come to me. But when I got to that place in West Texas, I stopped in there. I got to meet the guy who owns the restaurant. That was pretty neat. They donated a room to me. But I pulled into a gas station and I could write my name in the dust that I collected on my windshield. I could literally write my name in the windshield.
on your
And I was asking
motorcycle.
the
Wow.
yeah, so I'm asking the people who are eastbound because the gas station gets people going both ways on the highway. And I asked the people who are going eastbound, I said, "How long you been driving in this stuff?" And they're all in cars. I'm the only motorcycle. I'm the only guy dumb enough to be on a motorcycle. They said, "Yeah, it started just this side of Phoenix." Okay, Phoenix is in Arizona.
Yeah.
I'm a I'm 100 miles from New Mexico, and New Mexico is about 250 miles across.
That's a big
So
storm.
I'm looking at 500 miles of haboob,
Wow.
and I said, "You know what? I just can't do it.
Yeah.
It's too ridiculous for me to attempt such a
Yeah.
bizarre thing." And it would have slowed me down so much I would have never made it anyway. So I got the donated hotel room and I spent the night there. And then I called up because I was going to go from Florida to California
Mhm.
fast. And then I was coming back from California back to Florida slow because I had to meet 27 different families along the way.
Okay.
So I just went to the hotel room and started calling the families I was going to meet on the way to California. So, all right, well, instead of meeting you in 3 days, I can meet you tomorrow.
Mhm.
Instead of meeting, so we just started, and
Yeah, you worked it
if
backwards. Yeah.
if
That's
doing this kind of work has taught me anything, it's taught me that as soon as you put a plan together and start working that plan, God's gonna come along and shuffle the deck. It's just yeah, just so you gotta be extremely flexible.
yeah.
You gotta be ready to change like that. So we that's the kind of stuff that we do. So I've been talking a lot about riding motorcycles and what led me to this point, but let me take it a step further because I did start by talking about losing my kids. When I go see a Gold Star mom or Gold Star dad, one of the things that I'm either asked or I can tell that they are thinking about is what qualifies me to be the guy who's doing that.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, and I have to say, I'm in my mid 60s now. I can look at my whole life and say, well, if that wouldn't have happened, that wouldn't not have happened. And if
Mhm.
that would not have happened, that would not have happened. Now that sucked, but that was pretty great. So, but if I didn't go through what sucked, I wouldn't have gotten what's great.
Mhm.
And I can point to that kind of stuff from 1967. I was born in 1963, so I can remember stuff from 1967. So my entire life, I can tell you, well, if this didn't happen, then this doesn't happen. And my wife and I have had this conversation many times. If we would have met, she's an immigrant from another country, and if we would have met when she first got here, she came to Minneapolis as to go to college as an exchange program with the University of Minnesota. If she and I would have met then, I would not have given her the time of day.
Right.
She's told me what kind of person she was then. I know what kind of person I was then.
Mhm.
If we would have met then, I would have blown her off so fast. We
Mhm.
would have had nothing to do with each other.
Yeah.
And me. She would she wouldn't have had anything to do with me.
Right.
No, 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 no. But now fast forward to 2010 when we met. Now we've both grown and gone through enough pain And I like to use the word for going through pain, I like to use the phrase "buried bodies." Yeah, we've now buried enough bodies in the backyard that we can we we
I
can
like
get
that.
through
Yeah.
some stuff, and, I'm extraordinarily happy with the companion that I have to go through life with.
Awesome.
How's that for a great statement?
That
And,
that that's
you
a
know, and I
huge
know
statement.
that and I know that, she tells me she loves me on a regular basis, but she doesn't say, "I'm really glad I have you to go through life with." 'Cause, she has a different way of putting things. However, I know, I don't have any doubt in my mind that she feels the same way, that is particularly now because she gets to start chemotherapy this week. And
Yeah,
I've
you were
been
saying.
repeatedly telling her that this is a nuisance. It's a pain in the ass, but it's a nuisance that we have to go through. And well, that's okay. We're gonna come out on the other side of this. We're gonna be we're gonna have our lives together. We're gonna be able to dance to the Bee Gees, and we're gonna be able to do all that. Not that I wanted everybody to know that I danced to the Bee Gees, but,
I love it. I love it.
um, the Bee Gees, believe it or not, we like to listen to vinyl, and the Bee
Cool.
Gees is the vinyl that's on the turntable right now.
Yeah,
Uh,
good.
we also listen to ABBA, a lot of ABBA.
I
Anyway,
was raised on ABBA. Like, that was my first music I remember as a child, like, dancing to. My dad he was like, "You liked ABBA as a child?" I'm like,
well, now,
"Okay."
didn't you say that you spent a lot of your youth in South America?
Well, we were in, Curacao, which is kind of off the coast of South America, but
But
at
see,
that
ABBA was big in South America when they were contemporaries.
Oh, I didn't know that.
As contemporaries, they were useless. They couldn't sell a song if it came with a free steak dinner. They couldn't sell a record in the United States. But in South America, they were huge. As a matter of
Yeah,
fact, it was in South America. They toured South America in the late 70s, and
cool.
they rewrote the song Chiquitita, which is written in English. They
Yeah,
rewrote it in Spanish just for South America. And it was of course, Brazil is they speak Portuguese, so they were kind of let out of that one. But there was their tour of South America that had them rewrite that song in Spanish, and they were huge in Spanish as contemporaries. They had number 1 hits in Spain, or excuse me, in South America. They had number 1 songs when they were first released. In America, they were not big for 10 more years. It was
I
a
didn't know
retro
that.
it was a retrofit for ABBA to come to the United States.
So, I just remember that was one of the vinyls my parents had. They would play music kind of in the background at the
Yeah.
house, you know? And in Curacao, you didn't have TV or English speaking TV or English speaking radio. So it was all about the records, you know? And, and my, they're from the UK. So I'm not sure where they picked it up. They spent a lot of,
Who's your
they met
parents
in,
are from the UK?
yeah, yeah. My dad was born and raised in
Okay, 'cause
Scotland.
ABBA's not from the UK.
No, no, no. And
They're
so,
from Sweden, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, I'm not sure if it's sweet. I'm not positive on that one. But like when I was born, we first lived in Lebanon and then we moved to the States and then we moved to Curacao. And yeah, it was just part of the record collection, I guess, at that point.
So,
I'm
how
not,
many languages have you learned over the years?
I've learned a couple. Do I remember more than one? Not really. Like in Curacao, it was a mixture of Spanish and or Dutch and Portuguese. So it was
Okay.
called Papamento. That was actually the
That
name of the
that
language, and it was
okay,
like a mix between the 2, but
that's a new
I don't
lesson for me.
I don't remember any of the I took Spanish in high school. I can, after a couple days, have a conversation if I'm in another country, but besides that, it's all English. What'd you say?
Yeah.
You're a unilang
Unilingual.
unilingual?
I'm a
I like that.
unilingual.
Sounds
Yes, and,
fancier.
and my wife has a sister that lives with us, and she thinks it's insane that she and I have been together for 15 years, and I haven't learned her language.
Oh, well.
And the truth of the matter is, yeah, I'm just too busy. I really am. I'm doing like 80 hours a week for the Gold Star Ride Foundation, and I love it,
Wow.
and it's wonderful. But I'm always racing to do the next thing for the Gold Star Ride Foundation.
Very
I've
cool.
already done 2 rides this year. I've already ridden motorcycle more than 6,000 miles in 2026.
Dang.
Yeah, and that's a lot for the average Minnesota motorcyclist rides 4,000 miles a year.
Man, you're
I
right,
average I
especially we're
average between 20 and 30,000 miles a year.
wow, and especially coming from, you do have weather constraints at certain parts of the year where you're from and all that kind of stuff, so
Well, yeah, like
but
9 months out of the year, there's snow on the ground.
yeah, so you gotta get out of there
So you gotta
and get
consider
south.
that. You have to I've
Yeah,
ridden in the snow a couple of times. Um, yeah, you always have to consider that as another challenge. And that maybe it's my, viewpoint on going through challenges. I'm to the point now where it doesn't make any difference to me what the challenge is. I'm just gonna hit it head on, and that's just it. It's the yin and the yang of life, and I'm sure you've come to recognize this in your own life. But the yin and the yang basically says that, if you look at the symbol, it's a circle and it's a funny little design, but it's 50% black and 50% white.
mhm,
Right? And that's supposed to represent the notion that 50% of your life is a hard, difficult challenge, and 50% of your life is joy and laughter and everything else. And, there's some stuff that kind of falls in between there. Going to work every day and, you know, I who's got time to go to work every day? What a crazy notion. Um, but yeah, I just kinda look at life as it if I have to go through what I have to go through with my wife, I'm gonna hold her hand and we're gonna do the thing, and it's gonna get in the way because believe it or not, we have a golf our first celebrity golf tournament is June 29th,
alright.
and we're gonna do that up here. Well, that's 2 days after her first chemotherapy treatment. So, do I wanna do that? Yes, I do. Do I wanna do that? No, I don't.
Mm,
I
mm,
mean, I couldn't really be torn by 2. I mean, in one case, I have to be there to work the tournament, to say hi to everybody, shake everybody's hand, tell the stories, do the things that we have to do for the tournament, and on the other side of that same exact coin, I need to be taking care of my wife. I
mm,
gotta be I gotta be making sure that she's not, somebody's gotta hold her hair while she gets sick and all the mean, nasty, ugly things that go along with chemotherapy.
right.
Um Yeah, so I don't wanna be at the golf tournament. I don't wanna go on the laugh ride on Saturday either. The self-directed laugh ride, since I brought that back up, go to the website. If you ride a motorcycle or a trike, you can do it in a convertible probably, but everybody's gonna laugh at you. So, if you ride a motorcycle or a trike, you wanna sign up for it. It's a self-directed ride anywhere in the country.
Very
You
cool.
you pick 250 miles and you pick when you're gonna go. You have to do it before Labor Day. You go online and you click on the subscribe to the Laugh Ride thing, and once you're signed up for it, then you go perform the ride. You take a lot of pictures. There's a couple of you get the details on the website of what we want pictures of, but mostly we want pictures of where you're going, what you're seeing. So if you're
Mhm,
gonna ride through the mountains, we wanna see the pictures of the mountains. If you're riding along a river, we wanna see pictures of the river. If you're riding wherever you're riding, if you're crazy enough to ride from downtown St. Louis to downtown Kansas City and back, we wanna see what those downtowns look like. 250 mile motorcycle ride is really only 2 tanks of gas for most motorcycles. It's really very doable.
okay.
So I'm gonna do mine on on June 27th, and then we have their golf outing on June 29th. And then after that, I'm gonna concentrate on taking care of my wife. But these things have been on the books since before she was diagnosed.
Right. Yeah,
So,
I
and
understand.
we're at a point now where we're too far. We're swimming across the lake, and we're too far across it to swim back. Um, so we're gonna bring some other people in, and my sister-in-law will be here to help us, and my wife has
Awesome.
3 sons who are all adults, and they're gonna be here to help us. Um, so we've got a lotta pawns in the game, but everybody's gonna do something, and
Yeah.
it's just another challenge. It's gonna suck, but it's just another challenge. We're just gonna do it. We yeah, we're just gonna take on this challenge because we're gonna be better people when we come out the other side.
Yeah, and
And
there's gonna be
speaking
I was gonna say there's more adventures to be had after that, whatever you're gonna go through for however long, there's a whole 'nother life on
Yeah.
the other side of it.
Yeah, so I'm not sure where in the world you are.
I'm in Atlanta, Georgia.
One of my least favorite places in the world to go. Um, I'm sorry to say that, but Atlanta's like New York without the snow. Um, it's just a big, big city. It has some really great things. I've been there and I've done some really great things in Atlanta. I went through the Coca-Cola Museum.
Yeah,
Um,
I've
we
got a
got some wonderful
Coca-Cola.
stories that we tell about Atlanta. When we flew into Atlanta one time and we got stuck there and we got bumped off the plane to go to the next part of the trip. So we had 3 kids with us. Me and my wife had 3 kids with us. And so the 5 of us were stuck in the Atlanta airport. Well, what do we do next? Well, you wanna fly back home? Well, no, we don't wanna fly back home. We got a vacation. We gotta do something for vacation. So we bought a minivan in Atlanta and spent 5 days driving it back to Minneapolis.
Whoa,
So we stopped at the coolest stuff along the way. We stopped in Chattanooga. We stopped at the Coke Museum. We stopped at the Indianapolis 500. We stopped at
cool.
the place where Abraham Lincoln was born. We spent the night in Nashville. I don't know how Nashville's a cool place.
Love Nashville. Love
Love
Nashville.
Nashville.
Yeah,
But anyway, that's what we ended up doing. But it all started in Atlanta. And there's gold stars in Atlanta that we've come to visit also. There's
very
there's
cool.
there's a bunch of that stuff. And speaking of the gold stars, I'm supposed to talk about, and, I never bring notes to these podcasts.
That's all right. We're supposed to just have a conversation, you
Yeah,
know?
so I never bring notes, so I kind of forget. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to talk about that. Um, I was doing a ride from Florida, Central Florida, to Minneapolis via San Antonio, Texas. So I'm following the Gulf to San Antonio, and then I'm going to come north through Kansas City and up into Minneapolis. And I had to stop and visit. This was a couple years ago. So I had to stop and visit. It was a year before. Remember when I said I did the coast to coast thing in 2 days?
Yeah, yeah.
It was the year before that. So I'm doing this ride and I stopped to visit 5 families in the Houston area, just north of Houston, in a little town called Paradise, I think. Okay, you podcast listeners, look it up and see if there's a Paradise, Texas. Anyway, for all I know, I'm getting it confused, and that's where young Sheldon grew up. Anyway, there's a monument there that's built by this local guy who works construction. He owns a construction company. That's what he does for a living. And he does all kinds of things. He does concrete, does masonry, does carpentry, does framing, does all kinds of stuff. And he's got a team of people that work with him and and he has 2 sons. One oh, they both well, he has 2 sons, and they both decided to be Marine. Okay, fine. One of his sons was killed um, at a Marine post just outside or off the coast of Japan,
Really?
something like that. And he built the monument for all fallen heroes from that region, from that area. He built the monument for all of them, but it was really for his own son. So he was the only dad that I met that day, and I met 5 moms, and his wife was one of the moms. So I met 5 Gold Star families, and one of them was husband and wife. There were no other dads there. And this guy would not from the moment I laid eyes on him, he was crying, and he did not stop. I was there for 2.5 hours. He did not the tears were steady, both sides, just steady tears. He would not stop crying. And at one point, I try to engage the Gold Star families, and I want them to know that what's interesting to me is the life that their fallen hero had, not their death.
Mm,
The life is the most important part. So I'm trying to make I don't know these people. We
mhm.
just met. I
Right.
mean, hey, how are you? I'm Tony. Let's talk about some really sad things. Let's talk about your fallen hero. Let's talk about this kind of stuff. So, I mean, there's a strain from the very beginning. So he's crying. He's just kind of sobbing and whimpering, but the tears don't stop. And I asked a couple of the Gold Star moms, some simple little questions about, "Hey, did your son like to play football? Hey, did your son like to play baseball? Oh, really? What position did he play? What can you tell me about when he played baseball?" And I turned to the Gold Star dad and I said, "Tell me what your son was like when he was in junior high. What was it like to spend time with him after school when he was in junior high?" And he burst into convulsions. He just started uncontrollable, loud crying, and he just turned and he did his best to walk away, and I just said, "Excuse me," and I excused myself from everybody else, and I went and I've known this guy for 15 minutes,
Mhm.
but it's just him and I, and I put my arm around him, and I said, "What you have right now hurts like hell, but nobody can ever take it away from you. This is yours forever. Nobody can ever, ever take it away from you." And I said, if you feel that you want, you go right ahead. Nobody's going to stop you from crying. Nobody is going to tell you that you need to stop. Nobody's going to tell you anything. You do what you feel you need to do. And I'm just here to help you carry it for a minute.
Yeah.
I'm just here to help you carry it. That's all. That's all I'm doing. Just here to help you carry it. And I don't know if I did any good or not. I truly don't know if I did any good or not. But slowly he went back to his whimpers, and like I said, I was there for 2.5 hours.
Mhm.
And there's actually I made a video of this, after we parted company, the sun was mostly set. There was just a little teeny sliver of the sun left on the horizon. So it's mostly dark, but not completely dark yet, you know what I'm
Mhm.
talking about? A
Yeah.
little twilight area.
Yeah.
I got out my phone to make a video, and you can see from my video that I am not who I normally am in my videos. And I turned the camera and I pointed at them, and they're like a football field away as they are exiting, they're leaving. But if you go find that video on Instagram, and there's like 650 videos on Instagram, but if you find that one, you can tell that I that one shook me pretty hard.
Mhm.
Really, really hard, that one shook me. Anyway, uh, a year later, as I was on my way back from California to Florida, and I was going back to Florida because it was still February, and there was still snow on the ground in Minnesota, so you're gonna go park the motorcycle in Florida, and anyway, I was on my way back, and I remembered them very well, and I'm going right through their town. So I called them and I said, "Can I meet you again?" And they said, "Yes," and I met just the husband and wife this time, not all of them. One of the goals that I have is to not part company with any of the Gold Star families that I meet. I don't part company with them. I try to not part company with them unless I've gotten them to at least crack a smile. If I can get them to burst into laughter, that's even better, but I want them to at least crack a smile. And during that first visit with this particular family, I did not get a smile out of him, not even a grin, nothing. He did not stop crying, and his at that point in time, his son had been gone for 3 years. So, when I met him the second time, it was a full year later, and I meet him for coffee at a Starbucks, and we sit and we visit for a while, and we're just talking about nonsense and doing the thing, and it I don't remember exactly what I said, but I had the opportunity to be a smartass, and I did see him crack a smile. So, that made me feel a whole lot better. There's another wonderful story that we've got, for that. Do we have time for that? Do we
Yeah, yeah, go for
This is a podcast that goes until the 2nd Tuesday of next week. We, uh We had our laugh ride 2 years ago, pretty sure it was 2 years ago, where we're gonna ride to go see a Gold Star mom in Southern Minnesota. And she's about 120 miles away, more or less. And I get on the phone with her. No, it was the same year. It was after I met with them in the coffee shop. A month later, I'm talking to the Gold Star mom in Southern Minnesota. We're making arrangements to come and
Okay.
visit her. And she says, "Yeah, my son's a Marine who lost his life in Japan." And she's telling me the story. She's on the phone. She's telling me the story. And she says, "Yeah, the guy who escorted my son home, which incidentally is an incredible job, but the guy who escorted my son's body home called me about a month after he escorted my son home, and he said, "I just escorted another Marine home who was on the same base as your son. And those that mom and dad are struggling really, really hard. Would you consider calling them and offering some condolences and let them know that you're going through the same thing and,
Wow.
and do that kind of stuff with them?" And she said, "Absolutely, of course I'll do that." So she's telling me this story. So she called up these people and they became best friends. And for the last 3 years, they've been best friends, but they've never
Awesome.
met. And I said, "Really? Where are they from?" "Texas." "Where in Texas?" "Just north of Houston." "Is their name whatever?" "Yeah, how did you know?" "I just met with him 2 months ago." He said, "You've never
Wow.
met him in person?" "No, we've never met him in person. Gold Star Ride Foundation is gonna fly them to Minnesota for you."
Wow. Wow.
Sorry, I don't know, I'm getting choked up on that.
It's all right. It's beautiful.
We flew them up to Minnesota, and they drove the support vehicle because we had 65 motorcycles that day. And we always try to have a support vehicle when we're doing our laugh rides, because you never know if a motorcycle is gonna break down, then we just throw it in the trailer and down the road we go. Um, so we have a truck and a trailer and, he works construction, he drives trucks with trailers all the time. So I said, "I'm gonna put you in the truck and you and your wife go down in the truck and then we'll meet her when we get there." And that was there there's videos of that on Instagram, also on our website as well too. Website is goldstarride.org. Um, yeah, that was one of the better ones. That was yeah, and we actually had a retired football player with a Super Bowl ring on his hand, came
Cool.
out and he gave us our motivation speech before we got started. So that was
Wow.
yeah, he and I become friends. But the story I really wanted to tell, um, I was, doing one of those long rides that had a lot of families. Um, there's a lot of families. It was the middle of the summer, and it was really hot, and I got an email from, this woman who says, "My best friend is a Gold Star mom, you need to stop and see her." And I said, "Okay, yeah, I see where you live," and said, "I'll be there in 2 days. Set it up, let's have lunch. We'll have lunch in 2 days." So she sets it up, and I go there, and we meet, and we have lunch, and I'm meeting a couple other Gold Stars there at the same time, and out of nowhere, we're halfway through lunch, and it's just convivial, nattering, not important conversation, but there's, like, 15 people around the table, and she just stops, and she was sitting right next to me, and she just stops and put her forks down, and she says, "I just don't understand why my son would take his own life." And I immediately, I don't know where it came from, but I immediately didn't miss a beat. I said, "He didn't take his own life. That was a sniper's bullet from 7,000 miles away." And she just burst into tears. And I look around the table and everybody was crying. And just as quickly as that part of the conversation started, it stopped. And he started talking about how good the onion rings are and try these mashed potatoes kind of thing. And the visit was like 3 hours long, and we'd finish it, and we hug our goodbyes, and I swing my leg over the motorcycle, and I go down to the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And a week later, I was like 2,000 miles away, and I had met with at least 5 other Gold Star families, and I check into this flea bag hotel, and, just barely works. I mean, the truth of the matter is that the Wi-Fi didn't work in my room. My phone didn't the Wi-Fi didn't work at all, and my phone didn't work in the room. I had to go out into the parking lot to make my phone work. So to
Okay.
turn my phone into a hotspot, I had to put it on the motorcycle, leave it on the motorcycle, and then I could go back in the room, and I use my laptop as to check my emails and stuff.
Funny.
Anyway, that particular night, I get an email from the same person who set it up, the best friend that
Mhm.
set the whole meeting up. Very short, simple, sweet little email that said, "Your meeting here was the greatest thing could have ever happened." Because later that day, she went home and tore up her own suicide note.
Wow. Wow. Well done, sir.
Yeah, those are the kind of stories that are in the book. I'm working on the sequel because this book was written after I met with 64 families. I've now met with 562. So there might be 1 or 2 more stories to tell. There's yeah, I've now collected stories from the entire country. I've collected some tear-jerking stories like the one you just heard, the ones you just heard. And I have collected comical stories, whimsical stories. I've collected stories of, there was a Gold Star mom in North Carolina who said she went to visit her son's grave, and while she was there brushing the leaves off the grave, a worm came along and crawled across the grave, and she recognized the worm as his favorite bait when he went swimming or fishing,
Fishing. Yeah.
not swimming, fishing. So she took that as a sign from her son that everything was the way it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there's this story of the Air Force colonel, been a colonel for 38 years. I met him in Salt Lake City, Utah, I think, just north of whatever the suburb is, just north of Salt Lake City. There's an Air Force base there. Anyway, the short story there is we met and we smoked cigars and we talked all night. And in the morning when I woke up, we'd parted company about 12 or 1 a.m. and he had to be at work at 5 because, he's in the Air Force.
Yeah.
I and I was in a camper at that time. That's another whole, we had 2 seasons with a camper. It was pretty ridiculous. Anyway, I walk out of my camper and at the picnic table where we were sitting, he had stopped and left me a note with the St. Christopher's medal. And he said, this Christopher's medal was given to me to protect me when I was in boot camp 38 years ago. And it has done a wonderful job of protecting me ever since. And I wish to bestow it upon you so that it protects you with all the things that you do.
Wow. What a gesture.
And the notion of, I'm pretty sure I said this before. People ask me all the time if I believe in miracles. And I say, no, I don't believe in miracles. I depend on them. We could keep going for hours,
Mhm.
hours and hours and hours. But then I might run out of things to write in the second book.
Larry, that's
Uh,
true. That's true.
I
And we've
I have a
said
fan
quite a
I do fancy myself a writer. I think I'm a pretty gifted writer. Without a bookstore, we've sold almost 10,000 copies to this book.
That's beautiful. And what we're going to do is we're going to put all your information in the bio, including what the book is, where to find it, all that kind of good stuff, so we can get more people with that book in their hands so that they have a better understanding of what's actually happening.
So as long as you're talking about that, you see this one right here? Can
Yes,
you
my
read it?
DD-214 can kick your MBA's ass. I love it. Love
See, we
it.
have it in
And
a
it's
T-shirt and a patch. So if you wanna
okay.
just get the patch and put it on your leather, you can. Incidentally, that flag that was right above it, that's where my wife was born and raised. So that's the
Okay.
little support for there. And this, of course, is our country, which is 250 years old.
Yes, sir.
We're rather proud of that. That's why our self-directed laugh ride is 250 miles.
Ah, well done. Yes. I
Yeah, it
like it.
all comes full circle.
Yep.
It's all kind of a yin and a yang thing. And, I wanna tell you that I truly appreciate, us starting this conversation with you telling me about your history. There's
Of
some
course.
amazing things in that, uh, and I'll just say it for the people who don't know, look at an old podcast and you'll probably find it.
Yeah, I
Just
need to do an updated version of it, just kinda, get it out there. A lot of I've had multiple people go, "You keep saying everyone knows my story," but then I just started listening, I don't know your story. So I'll get I'll get it
Yeah.
out there for you
Well,
guys.
I'll throw this one out there just for fun. Um I'm going to start taking deliberately some significant time away from the foundation right after the 4th of July this year. I still have things to do. I have to make a trip to Arkansas. I have to make a trip to Seattle, Washington, and I'll do that same time that I go to Bozeman, Montana. And I think we have to go to um, Arkansas and we have to go to Florida. So I still have a few trips I have to do, but
Okay.
we're scaling it way back. And the reason we're scaling it way back is because I have to write the sequel. And I will also share with you a little bug in your ear. I've written 5 movies,
5
and
movies.
I'm thinking that we might want to make your story a movie.
Ooh, that would be very
So if you
flattering.
wanna jump right into, I mean, I could work with you, or maybe you could write it yourself, I don't know. But we can have conversations about me being a ghostwriter for you, or a co-author, or just writing it.
Wow.
I've written 6 books, and 2 of them were biographies. So I know how to write a biography as well.
All
So we
right.
could do that, or we could just jump right into the movie, or we could do one and then the other. The downside is I don't have a whole lot of connections.
Oh, I
I
don't
can help
even
you
know I don't
I
even
can
know
help
where to
you
start. Yes.
I can help you with the publisher of the book, because we have a publisher of the book too. And that's kind of where it starts. And we could move into that kind of stuff. And that's probably something that we could start having a conversation about. I'm going to say I got to go to Ohio in August too.
Well, whenever you get some time, maybe we'll
We can
chat.
start having conversations about it almost immediately after the 4th of July. And we can start
Okay.
getting serious about it maybe as soon as the end of August.
Yeah. If anything, what I'll do after the 4th of July is I'll reach out to you and make sure that you and your wife are doing okay. You deserve the
Yeah, that'd be
support
great.
and that you guys are doing your thing. You help so many people. Let some people reach out to you. Let them drop off some casseroles if you got those kind of friends. Take the advantage of it, you know. And yeah, just I'll be praying for you guys as you go through this season. And Anthony, you've shared so much amazing information, so many great stories.
At Instagram, you find us at Gold Star Ride. At X, you find us at Gold Star Ride. At Tumblr, you find us at Gold Star Ride. At Facebook, you find us, well, you got to kind of hunt for us on Facebook.
Yeah,
But the easiest way to find us on Facebook is go to the website, goldstarride.org, and click on the Facebook link. As a matter of fact, all the social media links are on our website.
awesome.
Most of the videos are on our website. You can scan through them. All of the videos, I think all of the videos, all the good videos are on Instagram, because that's where they get posted instantly. On YouTube, we're Gold Star Ride space DOTORG.org.
Okay,
Because
that makes sense.
I didn't know how to make a good name on
I
YouTube.
like it. That's
But
good.
yeah, so if you find us and again, the YouTube link should be on our website, should be. But a lot of the really good things you find on YouTube, because they allow for longer videos. So, for example, um, I was allowed to help celebrate the oldest Gold Star mom in history celebrate her 105th birthday.
Whoa, very cool.
So, okay, this is really fun. Let me tell you a little bit about this. She's turning 105 in January 6th. So on January 6th, she turns 105 years old in Minnesota. In Minnesota on January 6th, the high temperature is like -20.
Yeah,
It's bloody cold. Forget about it. It's bloody cold. Anyway, so they let me ride my motorcycle up and down the hallways of the school, the high school, because they had her birthday party in the auditorium of the high school. No
that's
school
really
that
cool.
day. I don't know why there was no school that day. Maybe it was a Saturday. I don't know. Anyway,
Winter break, maybe.
um, whatever. There wasn't any school that day, but her birthday party was that day. So we're in the auditorium. We're up on the stage, and I mean it's a bona fide stage with seats for the people watching the play or whatever's going on. And I'm sitting up there with her, with the mayor, with the commander of the American Legion, with the state senator from wherever. I mean, these are the elite, and I get to be the keynote. They say,
Cool.
"Oh yeah, you get to be the keynote." They're just going to say happy birthday. You get to make a speech. Okay, I get to. All right, cool, whatever. Anyway, so that you can find that speech. It was recorded by somebody, and you can find it on one of the links, one of them. But here's the important part of that whole story. Across the auditorium, there are 3 10-foot wide banners that say "Happy 105th Stella." Happy 105th Stella. Happy 105th Stella. Can't miss it. Everybody knows why they're there. They've been promoting it as her 105th birthday for 3 months.
Yeah,
Everybody knows what's going on.
yeah.
And Stella's sitting in a chair right next to the podium, right up on the dais or whatever you want to call it. So she's sitting right there, and she and I have not met before.
Mhm.
This is our first meeting. So I get up there and I say, "Hi, I'm Tony from the Gold Star Ride Foundation. Stella, they let me come up here to say happy birthday to you." And she looks at me and smiles. I mean, she's still living by herself.
Wow.
You know,
Wow.
she has somebody come in and help her for an hour a day, but she still lives alone. She lives by herself. So she smiles up at me and I said, "So, you know, Stella, it's your birthday. Can I tell everybody how old you are?" And she looks up at me and says, "No." Anyway, that's the funny part about that. So I get to ride my motorcycle up and down the hallway of the high school, which is
Yeah.
everybody's dream, right? Everybody who went to
Yeah.
high school wants to go up and down the hallways on their motorcycle. So I got to do that.
Yes. You got a
And then
free
she said
pass.
no. And there was another one, there's another video that was out there. I don't know if you're familiar with the Woody Williams Foundation.
I'm
Woody
not.
Woody Williams is the guy's name who won the Medal of Honor in the Pacific during World War II, and then he lived to tell about it. And when he retired from whatever business he was in at the age of 80, he started the Woody Williams Foundation, whose mission is to set up permanent Gold Star monuments to remember Gold Star families. And
Yeah.
they all have the basic same shape, but they're all different based on how the locality wants them to be designed and presented. So at last count, there was 150 of them scattered around the United States, and they're not cheap. And he doesn't pay for them. And he passed away 2 years ago. But one of the videos that you can find of me is my dedication to the unveiling of one of those monuments in Minnesota.
Very cool.
And Stella, the oldest Gold Star mom in history, was there for that. She was in the audience for that
That's
unveiling.
awesome.
And then, and it was at that unveiling that I was talking with her afterwards. By that point, we'd become friends. I'd
Mm.
stop and see her. I went to see her a couple, 3, 4, 5 times, and we knew each other and we are getting to know each other pretty well. But it was at that thing, she pulled me aside and she said, um, "You know, I don't have long for this world." And I said, "Yeah, but you're going to be at our laugh ride. It's coming up next month." And she says, as a matter of fact, the laugh ride that was coming up was the one where we introduced those 2 Gold Star moms that were best friends
Cool.
that never
Yeah.
knew each other.
Yeah.
Anyway she said, "I don't have very much longer, and I want you to speak at my funeral.
Wow.
So how do you say no thanks to that?"
You don't. You
No, you
don't.
don't. You don't. Yeah, that was I wanna say that was 2025 was the year, so it's January 2025. Started with her birthday, and then we had the, um, Gold Star family for the second visit in Houston, and then we had the unveiling of the monument, and then we had the Gold Star families that we introduced to each other. 2025 was a stellar 2025 was the kinda year that we had that proves what kinda year is capable.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
really because we broke all the records, we broke all the rules, we did so many things. It was so great to have that yin and yang there because we had the sad stuff because I spoke at Stella's funeral in August of 2025.
Yeah.
Um, but I had a birthday party in January 25. So if we go back to the yin and the yang thing, boy, those are your 2 extremes right there.
Yeah.
Um,
You're right.
yeah, so 2025 was a perfect example of what can happen. What you can have the opportunities to do. And these are the things that we wanna move forward with. So this is, you know, we're not just sitting here having this conversation because we wanna give your podcast listeners something to do. We wanna give them some homework. You gotta do something after you listen to the podcast. You gotta go to goldstarride.org, and you gotta sign up for the laugh ride, or you gotta come golfing with us, or you gotta buy the book or the patch, or you gotta make a donation for something else, or I'm sure I'm missing something. There's other stuff that you can
Right.
there's
Yeah.
other ways that you can contribute. We're very, very soon going to start state chapters. Right now, we're based in Minneapolis, and we take care of the whole country.
I mean, think about what Anthony's doing. He's devoted himself to service to Gold Star families. You know what I mean? Like it's another way of serving. So get out there and do it. You don't need to pretend like you did, and just honor those who have fallen. And with that, Anthony, I think that we should kind of put a little, we'll finish here for this session of the show. But
Okay,
I think
fair
we're going
enough.
to have you back on here in the future to kind of update us on what's going on with the organization, new stories. Let's get it out to everyone. I'm also going to put all your bio information in the description. So if anyone didn't catch it during the listening, you'll reference that really quick. Not a big deal to get to it, and you'll be able to access everything, including where to get Anthony's book, the website, how you can contribute, merchandise, whatever it may be. And there'll be new stuff coming, I'm sure. So with
Exactly.
Anthony, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
It's it's truly been a pleasure to be here. Thank you very, very much for having me.
Thank you so much, Anthony. Thank you for joining us for this conversation with Anthony Price. If today's episode helped you better understand what it means to be a Gold Star family, please help us share their story. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a review if you're listening on your favorite podcast app, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. You can also learn more about Gold Star Ride Foundation and support their mission using the links in the description. Until next time, remember no matter how deep your own shit creek feels, there's always a paddle forward. We'll see you next time. God bless.